everybody, it's Romania Black. So guess who's queen of the idiots? Oh no! So here's what happened. I looked at the watch order and saw that right after episode 13, as many of you commented, there was a OVA 13.5 that was titled Baka Ja Kate no Yo. And I was like, okay, cool. So I looked it up, found a link to Billy, watched it. Y'all saw that reaction in the last week's set. And I was like, okay, cool. Put it on Patreon, ready to go. And then I thought, well, I'll go back and get the link and put it on YouTube in case if people want to watch along. And when I go to Billy and sites like that, I never look at the comments because I'm always afraid there's going to be a spoiler or something in them. And I just happened to scroll down as I was getting the link, and there was a comment that was like, oh, this isn't 13.5. And I, slowly, the world zoomed in. And I was like, wait, what? And so I went back. I was like, wait, what? And I looked at the comment. It was like, this isn't 13.5. This is Mo Ikai Yari Meisanka. And I was like, which one is that? And so then I looked on the watch order, and it was for season 2 after episode 16. And I was like, are you joking? I was so freaked out. And so I went to Discord and was like, I made a boo-boo. And luckily everybody was like, okay, chill. Everybody was like, there were several people that said that there have been other reactors make the exact same mistake. And I was like, oh, thank God. It's like, I'm not the only one. So yeah, well, I don't know how I couldn't have gotten any luckier, because what are the odds that the wrong OVA I pick, 1, didn't really spoil me that much, and 2, was completely Aomine themed. I'm like, you can't get more lucky than that. And I was like, oh my God. So, sorry about that. I'm usually really good at getting OVAs and stuff ready. I'm usually, once I find out, I'm good to go, but not this time around. So, lesson learned. I'm going to be going to Patreon in the Discord and asking everybody, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I get the right one? Because I was about to have a panic attack and was like, I watched the wrong one, and it worked out. So when we get to season 2, episode 16, I'll probably just talk about the OVA after it, and then before episode 17, talk about it then. So it'll all work out great. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so what we're going to do is watch episode 13.5 and then episodes 15 through 17. So y'all are getting a 4-part reaction today because of my boo-boo, because of my blunder. So that's everybody's reward. But I do have a few comments I want to talk about before we dive into that. I cannot believe that I got it wrong. The thumbnail looks ridiculous, but it's fine. The thumbnail for last week now says episode 13, season 2, 16.5 and 14. Some casual viewers like, what the hell? Just why? So I do have a few comments before we start. RGRYT said the mangaka for this series, actually when they first started the series, did not know the rules of basketball. And that the publisher, as well as the anime, had to kind of make and fix some errors that they had created in the manga. And I was like, that sounds like something I would do. That sounds like if I was like, I want to write a basketball manga and I just didn't know all the rules. And I was like, screw the rules. I have artistic skills. And just went with it, But that does make a lot of sense now why they don't focus on the game at first. That makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Cameron talks about what does Midoriya do with his lucky items when he's done with them? Because that little raccoon that I wanted, I looked it up. It's like $125 on eBay. What? That Shigaraki fat raccoon is $125. I'm like, Midoriya, he ain't just got green hair. He's got green in the wallet. He is flush with cash, my friends. And I like to imagine, to answer Cameron's question, I like to imagine that Midoriya has a shrine and he just puts all his lucky items on display. And then if for some reason the Shigaraki fat raccoon comes up again, he can just pluck it so he doesn't have to keep dropping $125 on new ones. Or maybe his dad's a CEO of some crazy company and just gives him money all the time. Who knows? Maybe they're cheaper actually in Japan. But I really wanted one of those raccoons. And I tried to buy one and it's $125. And I was like, Whiteboard Coon costs less than that. I was like, I don't want to buy that. Which I joke, Whiteboard Coon was more expensive than that, but that's fine. We're not going to talk ill about Whiteboard Coon. So the truck talked about how the OVAs are actually chapters of manga that did not have space for the episode count. So, yikes, I watched that season 2 one out of place, but it's all right. We'll cover it when we do. But that is good to know that the OVAs aren't just necessarily filler, that they are canon. They just they weren't able to make their way into the actual series. Good to know. Moth Green Applesauce talks about how Takao could be a Generation of Miracles player if he wanted to. I think Takao is a good enough player that he could have been the Generation of Miracles. I think so. Moth was saying that we don't have an orange Skittles. Takao could be the orange Skittle. I think that'd be great. I would be all about it. Like, I'd do a petition to have Takao as another Generation of Miracle player, just like Kagami. But also that the guy I kept calling Discount Light Yagami on Midorima's team, his name is actually Miyagi Kiyoshi, and he threatens Midorima with pineapples. I was like, we've already got a yellow Skittle, so that won't work. That's why he's Discount Light Yagami and Discount Kisei, apparently. So that's really funny, though. I thought that was humorous. Bella Roll talked about the line that luck comes to the prepared, and that how that ties in with Midorima. That Midorima has like the superstitions, the horoscopes, the lucky items, but at the end of the day, Midorima is also a prepared individual who has put in the work and practice and the talent to get to where he is. So I liked that. Bella also said, they posted this after I'd already gotten the recording for episodes 13, 16.5, and 14 done. They were like, oh, make sure you watch 13.5 after episode 14. And I was like, no worries, Bella. I'm going to watch it after 14. It all worked out. See? All worked out. Look at that. And then finally, Anime Annie talks about how Kisei, I like to compare when Kisei and Kasamatsu are watching the game between Midorima's team and Seirin. I liked to liken it to Oikawa and Iwaizumi from Haikyuu coming to watch the Shiratorizawa game. But Anime Annie brought up a really good point. Kisei is not exactly like Oikawa. Kisei is not a sore loser. Kisei lost against Seirin, but he was like right as rain, like cheering Seirin on, rooting for Kuroko, whereas Oikawa during that game was like, I hope they both lose. You know, so it is a little bit different. I was like, I like that. And then maybe Kuroko, because we were talking about how when Sugawa bumps into Kuroko and Kuroko was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, why should Kuroko apologize? And Anime Annie was saying that a lot of people in Europe do that they do apologize for just standing there. And I was like, people in the US do that too. But it always bothers me because I'm like, if you're standing there minding your own business, not in anybody's way, and someone bumps into you, that's not on you. That's on them for not watching where they were walking. So why would I have to apologize? So I was like, there's no reason to. But Anime Annie was saying that maybe Kuroko not only apologizing is a cultural thing, but also it could be that he's used to having to apologize for not being noticed. And I was like, oh, that could be like tied to his character. And I was like, well, I'm not for that. I want Kuroko to have a little bit more self-worth. But I also like that Anime Annie called Kuroko a blue net. Stealing it. He's gonna be our blue net. Not our brunette, our blue net. Even though he's translucent in his hair color. But yeah. So y'all, again, I apologize for the confusion last set. I went back and re-listened to some of the discussion and I was sitting there going, this seems like it's a spoiler. This seems really out of context. And I'm like, because it was. So what do we do? So I've gone to this sketch-ass site to watch 13.5 as it was sent to me in the Discord. Honestly, though, I'm like, they need to be licensed. I'm like, I'm sorry. If it has been animated and it has to do with the series and it's done by the actual company, license the damn thing. I'll pay money for the Blu-ray. Just let me buy it so I don't have to go to this sketchy site and see pictures of Hooters thrown at me. Please? But that's all right. What can we do? So if a pop-up comes up during me watching this and I have to and it edits it, I'll have to edit it out. Bear with me. I apologize, but we're going to watch episode 13.5 and then we're going to go over and watch 15 through 17. I'm going to make lots of notes, and then we'll just go from there. And that should be fine. Should be okay, right? I think so. So yeah, I'm going to make my little note here for 13.5. And we'll just get started there. So thank you all for bearing with me. I hope that is the only blunder I have. And that from now on, I will definitely check with Discord before the rest of it and be like, just make sure I'm watching the right thing. Because there's so much Kuroko content. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So in any case, I hope you all enjoy this reaction and discussion. But we are going to start episodes 13.5, 15, 16, and 17. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So, these episodes were great. First of all, they're great. Of course, there's a cliffhanger. It wasn't really a cliffhanger, but it's like I'm very excited. I hate it for you all, but I am getting ready for holiday, and so I have to record ahead. So I probably will not be waiting a week to watch the next 3 episodes, but then I'll be waiting like 2 weeks before I can watch anymore. So it's a double-edged sword. I'm watching ahead to get ahead so I can be on holiday, but then I can't watch while I'm away. So it's like you get all of this done ahead of time, and then I'll get to read all of your comments, and then I'll come back and be like, oh yeah, so that. So I'll be able to watch 18, 19, and 20 when I get back from, or I'm going to watch that next, and then I won't be able to watch 21, 22, and 23. Or, I'll be doing 18, 19, 20, and then 21, 22, and then probably 22.5 whenever I get back from break. So it's a double-edged sword. I get to watch a little bit ahead and see possibly the outcome of this game. It's not looking good. And then have to wait a little bit. So, but I don't know. I may wait just a smidge to see what the comments are. I may wait a little bit to see what the comments are for this game, but oh my God. So Aomine. I've had a lot of people tell me that Aomine is their favorite. I feel like my view on Aomine is a bit biased because I went ahead and watched that season 2 OVA. I feel like it's a little bit biased. So I'm going to be talking about that in this discussion, but I feel like I want to talk about Aomine in terms of how I feel with him in the context of this season alone, and then how that OVA kind of influences you a little bit, because there were parts of episode 15 that were in that OVA, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I feel like I'm ahead of the game, and I am, but we'll talk about that. But just to recap, 13.5 was definitely the OVA to watch. It felt like an OVA before this game. It definitely felt like the right OVA. I did have some notes about it. Kagami we established as a power forward. Okay, so good there. The OVA was called A Monkey Can't Win. I can't believe that boob shot from that spam ad came up right when they transitioned over. I didn't edit it out. I left it in. I was like, oh my God, the timing was so perfect. I was like, nope, I'm leaving that in. When I went back to edit, I was like, I'm gonna leave it in and not worry about it. But yeah, so this is kind of neat. I like that this school has a system set up where you have to score you have to be in a certain percentile in order to not do remedial exams. So it's not just that you don't fail, it's that you can't be in the bottom third. That seems a little bit stricter than other sports anime, because like in Haikyuu, Kagami and Hinata were like failing everything, and they still got to come. They went to like one remedial class at 10 a.m. and made the game. So it feels like the stakes with this were a little bit higher, because it's not just that you can't fail your exams. It's not just that, you have to outperform other people. And so at this high school, apparently there are 308 students. So it's not a very big high school. There's 308, not that many. But the bottom 100, the bottom third, have to stay for remedial classes, and that's the day of the game. So they're like, you need to get better. And so I did like that. What I liked about this team was, for the most part, they're all pretty smart. They're like in the upper third of the class. That's pretty cool. Kagane is like 52nd out of 308. He's like way up there. And I like that this series did like a subversion, because as soon as Hyuga came onto the screen, I was like, oh, Hyuga will be at the top of the class because he wears glasses. Because that determines your intelligence, right? And Hyuga's like, I'm 112th. I'm not in the top third. Like Kagane is. And Riko's second. I think that's really important, because I feel like we amp up Momoi in these episodes for Momoi to be like she's the super intelligent, like intel collector, and she's good. I like Momoi's character a lot. I like that Momoi cares about Aomine and wants him to like, get back to where he was before, just like Kuroko. I like that about Momoi. But I like Riko too. And so I feel like Riko sometimes is maybe a little bit hard on herself. Like, she's just like, I'm not doing enough for you all. I'm like, you're second in the entire high school. You're like salutatorian of the whole shebang. You are intelligent. It's just that your specialty is not gathering intel like Momoi does. And I feel like I want to give Riko some credit. And I feel like Kagami gives her some credit too when we get to episode 16. We'll talk about it. I feel like Kagami's like, no, you don't give yourself enough credit. You do way more for us than you should. And we'll talk about it then. But number 2 in the class, right? And so she's basically like, if you guys don't, we're going to study up. We're going to go to my house and study. And I like all the boys are like, we're going to go to the girl's house and study. That's something that did happen in Slam Dunk. They did go to the one girl's house to study. So that was kind of like a little play on that a little bit. But I like that Kisei, meanwhile, we like cut over to Kisei and Kisei's like, why do I have to take these tests? Ugh. Like, Kisei's not that smart either. He's like, these are stupid. And then Midorima, he's not worried. He's like, oh, I just rely on my own skills, but he's really relying on that pencil. Midorima overthinks, right? He gets too analytical. He overthinks too much. Like on the test, he's like, there have been 5 A's in a row. They wouldn't have a 6th one in a row, would they? Or would they? I feel like it's like a light Yagami, like just like, but if they did, would they do this? Like, would they like over second guessing themselves into oblivion, right? Poor Midorima. But I love Riko's nickname of Kagami is Kagamoron. Bakami Kagamoron is absolutely wonderful. And so I love that. So we established Kuroko is the most average. Not only does he not stand out, he doesn't stand out because he's so bad. He doesn't stand out because he's good. He is like on the average line. Like, he is a C student, just not even noticeable, not on the radar. And Japanese is his best. And I love when Kagami like looks over to Kuroko to study. He's like, prepare yourself. like my study skills are mediocre. It's so wonderful. I love it. And so this is kind of neat too, that there's this whole thing where she's like, oh, we need to do 2 all-nighters. Now, as a teacher, don't do that. I would say the moment they were like, 2 all-nighters won't kill you, I was like, no, but you shouldn't do that. So just FYI, in reality, don't pull an all-nighter. You need sleep to do well on an exam or your brain won't function. Literally the only reason Kagami does great on the exam is because he has Midorima's secret magic roly-poly pencil. We don't have those in real life, so get some sleep. But for the sake of the OVA, whatever. They had to cram as much as they could. They had a strategy. I love that player 2, I'm getting Huckleberry a number 16 jersey. You better darn believe it. As soon as I saw him with that 16 jersey, I was like, player 2 has that little jersey. I'm torn now. Huckleberry will either have to be Pochita for Halloween next year or player 2. Or both. We could do both. Why not both? I could be Riko for Halloween. Why not? We could do that. But I absolutely loved it. I don't know if my hair could be as short as Riko's, though. That's a tough sell. But yeah, I love that Riko has player 2 as the guard dog to keep Kagami from leaving. But here's the thing. They do the fist bumps. I like that Kuroko's like, you can do it. And he brings up the fists to fist bump with Kagami. And he's like they stick together. And I'm like, there is a part of me that just has the big angst factor because that was Kuroko and Aomine's thing was to do the fist bump. But I guess in all reality, bros fist bump all the time. Is one set of fist bumps more special than another? You could say yes, but I'm gonna say from my heart, I'm gonna say that nah, it's their own special fist bump, right? It's totally fine. And so we do get a brief glimpse of the other 2 Generation Miracles that we've not met yet. I like that we got very little of them. I don't want to know anything about them. We were talking in the Discord about this, but I like that the series, it introduces you to the characters as it goes. And so I don't want to know anything about the pink or the magenta-haired one yet. We know that, remember when there was the Crane Game in card? I was right. The pink jersey belongs to the purple hair. I was like, yes. But we don't really know. He plays on a team for Yosen. He plays for Yosen, the center does. And then the one with the magenta hair plays for like Rikugen or something. Neither teams are in this tournament that they're in right now. So we're not going to see them in season 1. I feel like they're going to be seasons 2, seasons 3 characters that we're going to run into then. We just have to preview them now because they're there, but we're not going to talk about them. We're not going to talk about them yet, right? So Takao and Midorima, I love that they eat together on the rooftop. It's really cute. And Takao's like, oh, well, I want to have your magic pencil. And Midorima's like, no way, man. Kisei wants to borrow it, and Midorima's like, no. And Kisei knows that Kuroko has one too that he ends up loaning to Kagami. And I love that Kisei, he wants to like borrow the pencil, so he calls Kuroko, and Kuroko's like, I don't know this number. And just ghosts him and just drops him, and Kisei's like, nobody wants to talk to me. I felt so bad for Kisei. I was like, oh, I would give you the lucky pencil. And so we get a preview in this OVA, like a little subtle foreshadowing that Riko is not a good cook. It comes back in episode 17, but we get it in this episode because she's like, oh, I'll just make you guys some dinner. And Hyuga's like, nope. He's like, I'm going to go to the convenience store, be right back. And so Hyuga's instantly like, which one says is foreshadowing that Riko's not a good cook, but two, that the other second years did not catch on. So Hyuga, he's had her cooking before. My OTP remains. Although Kagami and her come in kind of as a crack pairing by episode 17, but I still stand by my OTP of Riko and Hyuga right now. But the Kagami, if anybody shipped Kagami and Riko after episode 16, I get it. The multi-shipper in me understands. I get it. But yeah, so she's not a good cook. Hyuga volunteers to go out. And then we cut over that Kagami snuck away, and they find him on the basketball court. I love that Kuroko has the intuition. They're like, where could he have gone? And Kuroko's like, I know where he is. Of course you do. And he's on the court using basketball as a means of studying. Whatever works, man. Whatever works. And Kuroko had faith in him. But yeah, Izuki, he gave him the advice to use your body to memorize things. Good on you, Izuki. And then we find out that Takao taking Midorima's pencil, that was comedic genius, because Midorima's like, I didn't want to have to use it, but I've resorted to my lucky pencil. And then he just left a note being like, I owe you one, buddy. And he's like, and the worst part is he's sitting right in front of him. And he's like, you bitch. It's great. And then Kagami ends up doing really well because of the pencil. He got like a 98 on the Japanese exam because of the pencil. Everything else was like 50s and 60s on the paper, but he managed to get like 90 out of 308 in the upper third. And Hyuga's just sitting there like, he's smarter than me. Just in that one test. Again, proving tests are not everything. So, oh my gosh, y'all. So I guess we need to talk about this, but episodes 15 through 17, y'all. This game and Aomine. So here's my thing. I am torn because I want to try to look objectively at Aomine as if I had not watched that OVA last week, because I feel like that taints my version of him a little bit, because in the 16.5 OVA that I watched last week, it's for season 2, which does give the hint that we're going to see Aomine later, which obviously I figure we would, because even if this season ends with year 1 ending, that would make Hyuga and the others third years and Kagami and them second years, and then we'd go into the next season, and then they'll probably face Aomine again. They'll probably have a rematch. That goes without saying. That makes sense. So I'm not surprised we'd face him again, but I feel as if that OVA, even though there are parts of it that are in episode 15, which is cool, I feel like that OVA gave so much more context to Amine's character. So I almost want to pretend like it doesn't exist. I can't, because my brain doesn't work that way. I can't forget it. But I almost want to like put it out to the side and say, okay, this OVA gives you a distinct impression of Aomine that can alter the way you view him right now in the season. So I want to pretend like it doesn't exist. If I'm just going into this season with knowing only what I know from season 1, how do we view Aomine? And he's kind of a dick. Like, I know Kelsey in the Discord loves him, and a lot of people have said he's their favorite character, and I'm like, I see it, right? But I am coming from it in the perspective that I don't know his character fully yet. You all have seen this series before, so you know the full scope of his character, and I don't want somebody being like, well, just wait till season 3. Don't tell me that. I want to find out as we go, please. But I want to come at these characters as I see them during the actual episodes, and then over time, I'm really hopeful that my opinions of some of these characters will change, right? I think that'd be kind of cool. So coming into these episodes of Aomine, like in the back of your head, there is a little bit in episode 15 that hints at the fact that he wasn't always like this, that he was different. And when you see him in episode 15 in the flashbacks, he has such like a softer, like kinder look to him. He seems like this impressionistic, hopeful, optimistic guy like that just loves basketball. But he's burnt out. He's burnt out and he just can't find anybody to satisfy him. And so he's just bored and it's just tainted his view of it. But he still loves the game. Otherwise, we'll talk about this real quick. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be playing, right? So Sakurai, our apologetic mushroom. He's a fun character. I like Sakurai a lot. He reminds me, there was a guy that used to be a waiter at a restaurant that my friends and I would always go to. He was a chronic apologist. Like everything. There was one time we laughed about it so much because we were just like, why? But he would come, be like, he's like, I'm so sorry. What would you like to drink? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, and like, he would apologize for literally everything. We called him like Sorry Tom because we were like, he just kept saying the word sorry over and over again. And we're like, you've done nothing wrong. He was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it wasn't just like a one night thing. Every time we had him as a waiter, because we went to that restaurant a lot, he would apologize all the time. Every time. It was like, dude, it's like saying like. I don't like saying the word like, but it's just something that's ingrained into my vocabulary. I hate it. But it was just sorry was part of his vocabulary. So Sakurai is like that. But you know what? 2012? I'm really proud of you because Sakurai defined gender expectations. Sakurai, now do I think Sakurai is homosexual? No, I don't. We haven't seen him ship with anybody. But what I like is that Wakamatsu comes up to him and he's like, oh, did you take your sister's bento box with this cute bear? And Sakurai's like, no, this is how I made it. I'm like, there is nothing wrong with Sakurai making cutesy bento boxes and being a total dude. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm like, look at you subverting gender expectations, Sakurai. I like it. But you know what? What sucks is that Aomine comes in, he's like, oh, gee, thanks, and just takes his hand like a literal, like, just takes it like a literal, just, oh, God, my brain has gone blank. Not a dump truck, not a forklift, not, just like an excavator, just takes it and just scoops it on out. And you're like, what the hell, Aomine? He just comes in and steals Sakurai's food and eats it without asking. He's very rude. He's kind of rude. And then he picks a fight with Wakamatsu. He's like, oh, I'm just here for my magazine. It was Horikita Mai, which I guess is a model, his like photo book of her. He's like, I just came to get this. So yeah, you guys keep practicing, whatevs. And Wakamatsu gets really mad because he's like, hey, we're, a team, which it makes more sense once the captain like explains how their team functions. It makes more sense why Amine's like doesn't care. But Wakamatsu's like, hey, we all have to practice. You have to as well. And he's like, yeah, no. He's like, you're going to let me go. I'm going to kick you. And then he does kick him. And he says, how many points did I score in the last game? And Sakurai says 82. And he's like, yeah, so until you guys get to my level, don't tell me what to do. And there's this conversation in episode 17 about arrogance versus confidence. And we've had this conversation, I feel like, in the discussions for other sports anime. Because here's the thing. It's arrogance if you can't back it up. It's arrogance if you make claims like this without being able to back it up. I feel like Sugawa was arrogant on Seiho. Like Sugawa was arrogant because he made all these big claims and ran his mouth, but in the end, he couldn't walk the walk. Aomine can walk the walk. So it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, is it arrogance or is it confidence? Because in that case, it's not arrogant because he can actually back up his words. What it is he's being an asshole. That's what it is. I'm like, no, it's not arrogance or confidence. He's just being a dick. And like, that's not cool because it's like, you shouldn't pick a fight with Wakamatsu. If he tells you to practice and he's your senpai, you should stick around for practice. But he doesn't. He thinks it's beneath him. And the thing about it too is that I feel like Aomine still wants to play basketball. He still does it because he loves it so much. He still loves the sport. He's just so bored out of his mind that he doesn't know what to do. And so he keeps on doing it, and he joined this team because they let him do whatever he wants. And he's like, okay, whatever, I'll just come and play, and that's it. But he's just bored. He doesn't know what else to do. And so he's just got a really bad attitude. And he doesn't follow anybody's orders. And then the captain comes in and is like, look, Tiger Woods, Shaquille O'Neal, they're both amazing at the game. And eventually, to compensate, the game had to kind of change around them because they were just these colossal players. And so the captain's like, maybe this is something that will happen because of Aomine, that the game will change because of him. But I do think Wakamatsu's kind of in the right. Like, regardless, you shouldn't be a jerk about it. You should still practice with your team. Like, that's so, like, acting like it's beneath you and being condescending like that is kind of, he's like, I could see where Wakamatsu could get frustrated. But then I also see Aomine, when we see how he was before, it's like he's just lost his way, right? He's just lost his way and gone down this, like, corrupt path, and Kuroko's trying to fix him. So we have the block schedule. I do like the block schedule in this game. Do I think that Seirin's going to win this game? Nope. I don't think they're going to win. I think that Aomine is setting up with Kagami being his rival. And here's the thing. This is why I think they're not going to win. One, Kagami is not at full strength. He's injured. He's barely making through this game. I don't think he's at full strength. That's one. Don't think that's going to happen. The other thing about it is that I feel like they're setting up Aomine to be like a final boss for Kagami. Like Kagami's going to have to come back as a second year and beat Aomine. I think that's what it's going to come down to, is that he's going to come back and beat him, and that's going to be like the big rematch, right? And the thing about the blocks is that that can work because this isn't a single elimination tournament. It's the idea that you have 4 teams, and the best 3 of the 4 are going to advance to the inner highs. So you have, obviously, there's going to be 2 teams that are going to win one of the matches, and then you're going to have, so it's kind of hard to explain. Slam Dunk does a really good job of explaining it, but you're essentially going to have one team that's going to play 4 games, and it's going to win 4 out of the 4 games. That team's obviously going. The next team is going to win 3 out of the 4 games. It's going to go. And then the team that wins 1 out of the 4 and 2 out of the 4, they do not advance. So even if they lose this game, or they have to win, one team's going to win 3 out of 3, one team's going to win 2 out of 3, and 2 teams are going to win 2 out of 3, and then one's going to lose. So it's basically one team could possibly lose all 4 games. They're out. One team, if they only win 1 game, they're out. The top 2 teams that win the most are going to be the ones that advance. So theoretically, if Seirin loses this game, but wins against Mei and what was the other team? If they win against Meisei and Shinsenkun, then they can advance to inner high. I think they will. I think they'll advance, but I don't think that they're not going to beat Toho. I just don't think that's going to happen. Especially if they were 10 points behind at the end of the quarter, I don't think they're going to be able to make it up. I don't know. And Aomine's in there, and Kagami's injured, and Kuroko is clearly not. Here's the thing. It's not only that Kagami is injured, but Kuroko is not in the right headspace. He's definitely thinking back to the past. He's not let it go, and he's not in a good headspace. And Kagami tries to break him out of it, which is great, but So I think they could still beat, because they make a point of saying that Shinsenkun is going to probably beat Meisei. So there's a chance that Seirin could beat Meisei, and then all they have to do is beat the other king team. That's all they got to do. And then they're in, right? That's all. So I think they're either going to scrape in by the skin of their teeth to inner highs, or they're going to lose and we're going to start the next year. But here's the thing. You could finish out season 1. You could finish season 1 with them making it to inner highs. And if Toho makes it to inner high, the next season they could rematch at inner highs. So what better time? They could rematch again in season 2. Could totally do it. It would totally be a thing. I'm all here for it. Sure. Okay. See, we could do that. It could all work out, but I don't think they're going to win this game. I think we're going to find out in the next set of episodes, and I don't think they're going to win. So that's really sad. Sad days. But yeah, Kagami is still practicing, which he shouldn't be. And Riko gets onto him saying, like, what are you doing? And we find out that Toho Gakuen has been recruiting to get better. Like, they're not a well-known school, but they've just been going out and doing some heavy recruitment. So the end of the episode 14 makes a lot more sense, right? And Aomine and Momoi went there instead of like a well-known school. So I love that Riko tells him to walk on his hands. And that shot, again, things that have no heterosexual explanation. That shot of Kuroko just staring at Kagami's abs like, well, you can keep doing this as long as you want. But what I love about it is we have that flashback with Aomine talking to the redhead. I don't think that's the Generation of Miracles Magenta Head, because I thought he was about the same height as her. This other guy seemed taller, so we don't get to see his face. So he might just be a rando that was with Tato, but we don't get to know for sure. We can't see his face, so maybe it's not the magenta one. But Kuroko talks about how Aomine bloomed sooner than everybody else. He bloomed sooner than everybody else. And we get parts of that OVA from 16.5. We get the shots of them on the bridge with the popsicle, shots from the other team. Like, it felt like a preview for that OVA. It felt like we got a little glimpse of that OVA, and I've already seen it, so I'm like, well, I know it's coming. So I kind of cheated, I guess, but it'll be fun to go back and rewatch that preview when we get to season 2. I'll probably go back and rewatch it to talk about it, and it'll be cool to go back and see, knowing the context we'll know by then, how much stands out even more at that point. So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a fun time. But yeah, I love Kagami. I was wondering how they were going to handle this, right? Because Kuroko and Kagami do a really good job of balancing each other. Like when Kagami gets worked up and fiery and like gets his temper going, Kuroko's like, hey, you need to calm down. And when Kuroko starts to overthink and get inside his own head and kind of freak out, Kagami's like, hey, yo, chill, man. So they kind of, they do a good job of balancing each other out. And there's a moment where Kagami's like, well, this generation of miracles, like they're all just full of themselves. They're ridiculous. Like they all do everything for themselves. Don't they know better? And he looks at Kuroko and he's like, let's go beat him and wake him up. Which is what Kuroko wants to do. And he has the fist bump. So see, I do think Kagami is a bit different than Aomine. And I like that. I like that they're very different. And Aomine and Kagami are coming at helping Kuroko from very different places, which is fun. So we have the day of the game. Momoi getting her shower. I will give the show this props. They do a very tasteful fan service. They just show like her legs down. They don't go and do anything like nothing crazy. It's the most tasteful fan service. These are still high school kids after all. And then we see Hyuga running, doing an early morning jog, getting himself all revved up. Izuki has the hot mom. Izuki has the hot mom that's getting her celebratory makeup on while she serves him food. It seems like Izuki's an only child. And he's like, that's okay. And we go from Izuki having this quiet, like, morning breakfast with just him and his mom to Mitobe and his 9 siblings. 9 siblings. There are 8 at the kitchen table, and then the one girl says ni, like for brother, so she's his sister. There are 10 of them children. What? And they all look the same. They all like have the same face. I'm like, Mitobe, no wonder he's so quiet. He doesn't get a word in edgewise, and he looks like he's the oldest. So he's like the eldest of 10 siblings. What is even happening? Because yeah, at the dinner table, none of them look like his parents. When I went back and looked, I was like, no, those are all like 9 siblings that Mitobe has. What the hell? Insanity. Yeah, no wonder he's so quiet. And then Kagane was trying to sleep in. His mom has the same like little monkey face as him, wakes him up. And then Riko's dad reminds me, all I could think of was Ouran High School Host Club and Toru's dad. It seemed like Riko, it was Toru's dad was like exactly like that. And he's like, you forgot your underwear. And she's like, oh my God, Dad. It doesn't seem like the mom's in the picture. So that's interesting as far as that goes. But yeah, Midorima decides he's not coming to the game. But then he shows up and Kisei's like, oh no, he's not coming. We all kind of suspected maybe he was coming. And then Aomine, he's just like, I'll come the second half. Maybe if I'm feeling it. It's not arrogance, but it's not confidence either. It's just, he's just being a jerk. And just being a jerk to his team. It's like, Aomine, I want him to get some sense slapped into him. Because, not to talk about that OVA that I'm supposedly not have seen yet. But when you do see that, it's like, no, he actually was this really nice person that loved basketball and was really kind and considerate and was a team player. And then he's just become jaded. Like the power and talent he has just jaded him. And it's like, what the hell? So what do we do with that, right? And then we have Sakurai. When we have the team showing up. And Sakurai, as he shoots the 3, he's like, I'm sorry. Like just apologetic to the end. But it's established by the end of episode 15 that this is not going to be easy. Nothing about this game is going to be simple. It's like, well, damn it. So, Toho is the Inashiro of Kuroko. I said that about Midorima's team, but no, they really aren't. I'm glad y'all didn't spoil me because no, Midorima's team, they all still played very well together, but Toho is in fact the Inashiro of Kuroko. Inashiro is a team in Ace of the Diamond that are literally what Toho is. They're just a group of individuals that all are good on their own and they're strung together as a team. And they have to form some kind of cohesion. They're stuck together all the time, but they all are standouts in their own right. And that's exactly what Toho is. They just are an offensive team of individuals that do one-on-one. And whoever gets the ball scores. And that's all they have to do. And so, yeah, that can be really good, I suppose. But I think if Momoi wasn't there, they would fall apart because they have no cohesion. I think if Momoi was not their manager, they would not be the team that they are. I really don't, because Momoi is the strategist. She gets all the intel. She is the Nabe. If we're talking Ace of the Diamond, she is the Nabe of their team. And without her, I don't think they would be nearly as good. Momoi is she's a catalyst in all this. That's why she's in the intro of the Generation of Miracles. She's the 7th man, technically. If Kuroko's the 6th man, she's the 7th, right? And even Midorima and Kisei acknowledge how tough she is. And even Kuroko's like, yeah, you don't want to be playing against her because she knows you too much. But Kuroko's the only one she can't read, oddly enough, right? So Kisei, he sees Midorima. Oh my God. Of course. I like Midorima's like, how'd you spot me? I'm like, you're the only person with green hair in this entire auditorium. But I love that he has the transition sunglasses, the transition lenses. And it's like, I didn't think you spot me with these sweet shades on. And he has this lucky item that's a Jack-in-Box. My question is the lucky item for Seirin or for Toho? Is Midorima still being a sourpuss about losing? Or is he rooting for Kuroko's team like Kisei is? He hasn't said yet, so we don't know, right? It could be the lucky item was for Toho. He hasn't said, right? But Hyuga calling Sakurai an apologetic mushroom was amazing. And they're super, super talented, even though he says he's sorry all the time. And Kuroko, I like that Kagami kind of calls Kuroko out on the court. He's like, your head's stuck in middle school. You need to get in the present, get in the game now. And Kagami tells him that he needs to get back to the present. I like that Kisei, I love that they go back to Midorima and Kisei and they're talking about Momoi and her having a crush on Kuroko and being around him all the time. And of course Kisei would point out because he's like, I was trying to be around Kuroko all the time and she was in the way. It's like, yeah. But Kagami in that moment, he's like, oh, is this your ex-girlfriend? Isn't she pretty cute, right? And Kuroko's like, oh, is that so? And he says, you're right. And the thing is, he doesn't verify if she was in fact his ex-girlfriend or if she is cute, but he makes the comment, she's cute if you're not playing a game against her. And so I feel like I don't ship Kuroko and Momoi necessarily, but I do like them as platonic friends. I do like the idea of Kuroko wanting to be friends with Momoi and them sharing a bond because they know the Generation of Miracles the best. The Generation of Miracles is like a little club and they all know each other, right? I feel like she connects with Kuroko on that level. And she says that Aomine and her were childhood friends. So there's that angle. I ship Momoi with Aomine personally, especially after we'll talk about the end cards. After the end card, I was like, no, I ship them. Hardcore shipping happening between Aomine and Momoi. But I mean, she's followed him all this time, right? She has faith in him. But Momoi can read anybody but Kuroko. But the problem is she has data on the second years. So she knows what they're going to do. She predicts their growth and potential. I'm like, she just knows probabilities really well. If you're good at this, but you're weak in that, you'd probably want to strengthen that. So she's doing a lot of guesstimating, right? And Kagami, of course, his legs start to hurt in episode 17. In episode 16, his legs start to hurt. And Riko decides to tape them. And we have this conversation where Riko's like, I hate this. She's like, because we've been preaching that we don't play basketball alone and that we're a team play. But I hate that you're injured. I don't want you to play, but we don't stand a chance without you. So she's like, it feels kind of hypocritical for us to say that we're a team of team players when we do need you to be in this game. So she says that the style that she came up with, the team style that someone taught her, we don't get to know who that someone was. Kagami asks about it and she doesn't answer the question. So maybe that's something that we'll touch base on later. But she knows as well as Toho's coach knows that Kagami is going to be at a limit throughout this game. But she's like, we have to rely on you. I don't want to take you out. But she's like, I'm lamenting that I'm not strong enough to come up with a better solution. And she laments that she isn't strong enough to draw out their full potential. She's like, I'm not Momoi. She's like, I feel bad that I'm not Momoi and I can't help you guys with your research and everything. And I love that Kagami, he's like, you do so much for us. He's like, you give us massages, You tape our legs and our feet and our fingers. You like strategize for us. You help motivate us. He's like, you do way more than you should. And I do feel on the one hand that Riko kind of has more on her plate than Momoi does, because Momoi has a coach there. Like the coach, she's just the manager. And she does all the research and stuff, which is not to diminish what she does, but that's her sole job. She's not the coach though. So Riko has to do both the coach job and the manager job on her own. So I do feel like Riko has a little bit tougher than Momoi. And Kagami kind of tells her that. He's like, you do too much for us. You know, you need to give yourself a little bit more credit. And I love that she just gives him that smile like, you baka, you idiot. I'm like, for a brief moment, I was like, I see that crack ship. I'm rooting for that. But I like Hyuga better with her anyway. I think it works better. So yeah, 51 seconds left. 49-39. And then Aomine showing up and wrapping his arm around Kagami. What the hell? What is this? What is this? Ridiculous is what it is. Absolutely. Oh my God. I was just like, what do we do? What do we do, right? And so then we go into episode 17. And it's just, there's a lot of bit of recap in this episode. Quite a bit. Like, we don't get to like 5 minutes in before we get out of a rematch. Before we get out of the recap. But Aomine instantly gets much more apprehensive around, or Momoi gets more apprehensive around Aomine when he shows up and just chucks the jacket at her. Like, she's constantly afraid of him, like he's going to just fly off the handle or do something crazy. But Aomine is constantly calm, so it's interesting that she gets that way around him. I feel like Momoi and Kuroko, they know that Aomine is capable of being a better person than this. But he's just not at this point because he hasn't had that slap of reality. And Kuroko wants to be the one. Kuroko promised Momoi that he'd get Aomine to turn around. And God, it's just so insane, right? Because he walks up to Kuroko. And again, I'm trying to put aside what I know from that OVA, because in that OVA, they're like best friends, the chemistry, the shipping. And here, he just walks up to Kuroko and he's like, oh, hey, Tetsu, it's good to see you again. Like, on a first name basis, you know how it goes. I was wondering what face you'd make. And he's like, you look ready to go. And I love that he can somehow read Kuroko's blank stare. Like, he can somehow read it. It's great. And Kuroko just blinks. He's like, yes, I promised Momoi-san that I would be this way. And he's like, oh. He's like, well, I understand what you want to say, but you'll have to show me that with your play. He's like, oh, you want to bring me back down to reality? Prove it. It's like, it's just him being a jerk. And I want him to like get better. I want him to not be a jerk and to get shown up, but it's not happening in this episode. Nope. I will say the animation on him, the animation on Aomine is just absolutely incredible. Like, it's so fluid, like just showing how he moves and weaves in and out. It's so fluid and wonderful. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And he just like breaks past him. Like, the animation was just spare no expense. And then of course, Kagami goes up and blocks that first. Like, I feel like when Kagami, if he is on top of his game, if Kagami is on top of his game and at his height, he could give Aomine a run for his money. And I think by the end of this episode, Aomine starts to see that. But it's the weirdest thing, right? We'll talk about it. Like, Aomine's reaction is so crazy, right? But I feel like if Kagami keeps practicing and if he keeps getting better, he's gonna give Aomine a run for his money. And I want to give a picture of that, of him slapping that ball out of the way. Like, I think he could do it. Kuroko, they pull out the stops. Kuroko takes that press pass, and he's like, we're going to use it to the full extent. We're going to spam the hell out of that in this game. I learned a new pass. I know Kagami can take it. Let's do it. And I just like that Midorima and Kisei, at one point, they do get surprised by how much Kagami can jump and keep up with Aomine. But they're just like, it's going to be too much. Like, it's too much for them. Like, it's going to be too much for them to handle. And so, yeah, Aomine just looking over at Kuroko and Kagami being like, yeah, let's play in the second half. I do want to make note. Sakurai and Matobe are two chefs. And we get a good foreshadowing with that. I love that about their characters. We know that Sakurai made his own bento. So, of course, him making the lemon slices, it looks like it's in honey water, which would make sense. I think there's like an acid or something, like the citric acid might help you with your muscles and everything, and the honey would give you some energy. So that's really cool. But yeah, Sakurai, we know he can cook because he made his own bento. It looks really good. Now, Aomine ate all of it. So, of course, Aomine orders him to make the lemon slices. But we know Matobe can cook because Matobe is cooking for 9 siblings. I'm still not over that. I'm still like 9 siblings. Why? I can handle 1 sibling, much less 9. Oh my God. So, yeah, I just, you can tell those 2 are cooks, and the foreshadowing of it is really nice. Riko and Momoi, 2 birds of a feather. I want those girls to get together after this game and like get together and like have a study session or something, or like get together and go like have a girl chat or something, because I feel like Momoi and Riko would really get along with one another because they're so similar. Neither of them can cook. It's like the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. So Momoi can do all this intel crazy work. Riko knows the body in and out. But they would make a perfect duo. I want future alternate reality where Riko and Momoi are 2 co-coaches for like a professional team. Momoi has the intellect, strategy, and Riko has the physicality, all the stuff mapped out, the personal trainer info. They would be so good. Like if Riko became a personal trainer and Momoi became a professional coach, and they just work together, an unstoppable lady force guiding these Baka boys. Give me it. Give me it all day, every day. I'm here for it. I just want them to meet and talk to each other. I feel like they'd be great. Neither of them can cook, so maybe Aomine and Hyuga can go to the convenience store together and get them food. But I like Wakamatsu's like, you don't get any lemons because you just got here. And he starts eating them all himself so that he can't get any. And the captain's like, whatever. And so they make, like, Sakurai makes this kind of lament here where he's like, the captain says don't eat all of them. And then, of course, Momoi brings the lemons. And so then Aomine just runs off. He's just like, I'm not sticking around. He's like, and he says that she can't cook, right? He calls her by her first name. They're on a first name basis and says she can't cook and then decides just to leave. Right? And so we'll cut back to that, of course. But then we cut over to our people, and poor Riko, she tried to make them lemons. It didn't work. And then Matobe's like, don't worry, I got you guys. So we can make our comeback in the second quarter. I love it. I love they're all like, thank you. I love that, like, Matobe, we're so glad you're on the team. And then poor Riko's in the corner, just like, I tried my hardest. But yeah, Kuroko's not eating. Kuroko's not eating because his head's too caught up with Aomine. He's like, no, I'm good. Which he's kind of peckish to begin with. Kuroko doesn't eat a lot to begin with. So Kagami's like, I love Kagami's just sitting there eating lemons like, you're going to be a little bastard about this, aren't you? I love that he's like, I'm going to have to watch out for you, aren't I? It's kind of cool because I talked in the last couple episodes about how, like, Takao is Midorima's keeper and Kasamatsu is Kisei's keeper. And at the beginning of the series, I was like, well, Kagami's kind of like a generation of miracles, so Kuroko is his keeper. But now it's like, no, things are kind of reversed where Kuroko is Kagami is his keeper. So I'm like, it's cool that they're kind of each other's keeper. There's that little give and take there. It's really fun. I like it a lot. But yeah, I like that he's just like, well, what are we going to do? And then we cut back to the coach for Toho. The coach who looks extremely hot. He has like the Aizawa hair and he's constantly like messing with it. He looks like if Aizawa and L from Death Note had like a love child that coached basketball. And Aomine just walks off like, I'll pass. And Wakamatsu really doesn't like Aomine. He's like, wait up. And the coach is like, if he scores points for us, that's how we know this is going to go. So just let him do what he wants. Aomine is a brat. That is what it is. He's acting like a brat, right? Aomine, it's not arrogance. It's not confidence. He's just acting like a brat. He's just doing whatever he wants to, and he's not being respectful to his teammates or the program because he just doesn't see it necessary. And so the captain says, it is what it is. He's like, I don't dislike Aomine and I don't like him, but he gives us results. And we join this team knowing that we're all good at our own thing. And that's just part of it. He's like, in a TV interview, there's plenty of arrogant top tier players, but they're top tier. So are they really arrogant, or is it just how you're viewing it, or viewing it negatively or positively? Depends on your perspective, right? And so the captain's just kind of like, I don't necessarily agree with Aomine, but if he makes us win, what do we have to complain about? As long as he scores, I don't care what his personality is like. As long as we win, he's right. And you can tell Wakamatsu doesn't like that, and that's such a dangerous, toxic mentality to have, right? If your team doesn't care as long as it wins, then what's the point of the sport? Why are you doing it? And I've said this in previous reactions that I've known teams that was their mentality. It's pretty realistic. But then it's like, why do you even, what's the point? You don't love the game anymore. You just kind of get burnt out on it. And so what's the point? And so no matter what kind of guy Aomine is, I have no complaint as long as he plays. He's like, that's why I scouted him. We're most likely to win if he does. So what's it matter? And Sakurai, we get his perspective in this. He's like, I've always thought that our team is united by our selfishness. Like, we're all this big team of individual people, but because we're a team, that makes us cohesive. And he's like, we abandon trust and each man is out for himself. Like, everybody there, if you look on the bench, everybody is all positioned away from each other. Nobody is together except for the captain, Sakurai, and Wakamatsu. Everybody else is doing their own thing, which I don't like teams like that. Like, even if you win, it's not fun anymore. And he's like, but for some reason, I don't feel like we'll lose. That's such an Inashiro line. It's an Inashiro line, damn it, which makes me think they're going to lose. It's an Inashiro line, which makes me think Seirin's going to lose. Curse you, Ace of the Diamond, for spoiling Kuroko's basketball. No, I think they're going to lose because it's all just a setup, like I said before. It's setting up Aomine as Kagami's rival, and they're going to come back and face each other again in Inner Highs. That's what I think is going to happen. And so Aomine's stretching, and I'm glad that Momoi calls him out. She's like, well, you were late. Like, there's no reason for that. What do you think you're doing? He's like, we're up against Tetsu-kun's team. Like, you know, she's like, respect Tetsu. Like, you know, Kuroko, he's our friend and our former teammate. Like, respect him. He's giving us his all. And Aomine's like, shut up, I know. And he's like, and then Aomine, he says, I feel bad about what I did. And he looks back at her, he's like, I misread them a little. And says, I should have shown up sooner. So he does regret it. He has some regrets. He's like, I know I did something stupid and I'm not happy that I did it, but I'm not going to admit that I'm wrong. And it's like, okay, all right. And so then Riko's like, well, I mean, it's going to be tough without Kuroko, but we can't use up Kuroko now and then him be useless to us in the fourth quarter. And Kuroko is like, I want to play the whole game. But I'm glad that Kagami shuts Kuroko up because I feel like Kuroko is not thinking clearly. He's just thinking of Aomine and his own personal feelings. He's making it personal and it's not like a team thing. And because normally Kuroko would be like, no, you're right. I'll sit it out and come in. But here he's like, no, I will do it. And Kagami's like, you're not acting like yourself. I don't like that. Kagami's like, no, let me just shoves the lemon in his face. He's like, he shoves the lemon and he's like, no, you're going to sit on the bench, eat your lemon, and you're going to let us play, all right? And so that's what they decide to do. And it's one of those situations where it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If they had played Kuroko, would they have still lost? Are they still going to lose? I think so. So I think it wouldn't matter either way. It's just the fact that I liked this moment because it was Kagame saying, no, you need to sit down and let us handle this, okay? I liked that. I thought that was a pretty smart thing in the moment, right? So anyway, Kuroko, he tells Kagami, he's like, you have to be careful around Aomine. His potential is pretty limitless. He's still growing, just like Midorima and Kisei. He's like, he's still gonna get better. They're only first years in high school, right? So he still has all this unlimited potential. He's like, you've just got to be careful around him. And of course, Aomine gets warmed up and he's all sweaty, ready to go, right? And Takeo's like, I can't believe they subbed out Kuroko and he's on the bench. And Midorima and Kisei kind of figure out, they're like, they couldn't afford to sub him out in the first quarter. So they're like, Midorima's like, they can't do this without him. And Kisei's like, yeah, you're right. It's not going to be good. He's like, playing against Aomine without Kuroko is too hard. And he's like, but Kisei, coming in clutch like the OT3 that he is, believes that Kagami does have this incredible growth on him, right? Again, that's why I think that they're going to lose against I think next set of episodes are going to lose against Toho, and it's going to set up for a rematch. And then we're going to have lots of other games. Kagami's going to infinitely grow as a character, and then they're going to have a rematch. And will they beat him in the rematch? I don't know. Depends, right? It depends. But damn. Yeah, I love the animation they have on Aomine, where he just zooms past Kagami. It's so freaking good. They animate him so fluid in this. It's just like, you love to see it, right? But yeah, he just zooming past him. And they do so. But here's the thing. Kagami starts to realize, and I think that this, again, will play into if they fit, because he does the fade away. He does all that. But he's doing like lots of street style ball. And Kagami starts to notice it and is like, oh, it's street style. Like I know that. Okay. So he's just using it on the court and nobody stops him and he has nobody else to like really challenge him. So he's able to get away with it. Right. So I feel like Kagami figured this out too late because it's already the third quarter. But again, I feel like Kagami is going to be able to hone in and hone his skills in street ball for the future so that when they have a rematch, they can face Aomine again. And I may be counting my chickens before they hatch, but I think narratively, thematically, it makes sense for them to lose this game, but I'm dreading it because we've done so well, and we're only 17 episodes into this series, but it feels like we've been here for so long with this team, and I feel like it's like I want them to do well, right? Ugh. And so then, yeah, he's playing street ball and knows how to control like his acceleration, deacceleration, all of that. And Kagami, he realizes, he's like, I can keep up. I just need to keep trying. And so then Aomine realizes, this was the point I was trying to get at, that Aomine, he sees that Kagami can keep up with him, that he's actually doing it. And there's still a big gap, but they're doing okay. And then Aomine, he manages to like knock the ball away from them, right? He knocks the ball out of his hand and he's getting fired up. He's like Kagami was going to jump from the free throw line to dunk it. He just jumped from there with a bad leg, mind you. He just jumped from there from the free throw line. Did he think, don't tell me he was trying to dunk from there. So there's this weird moment here where Aomine, on the one hand, Aomine is like, is this guy really talented or is he just like the biggest poser? Like there's that kind of moment, right? Because I feel like Aomine, he doesn't want to get his hopes up. He's like, could Kagami be a rival that I've been looking for? He's like, but no, surely not. No. So it's like, it's the funniest irony that Aomine has wanted a rival this entire time so far. He has lamented it countless times to his teammates, to Kuroko, to everybody. But when he finally realizes that Kagami could be that person with the potential to rival him, suddenly he's mad about it. He's like, well, no. And so it's fascinating, right? He's like, no, don't tell me he was trying to do that. No. And he starts to get really fired. He's like, come on now. No. And he starts to get fired up about it. Like, it's even more. It's so crazy to see that Kuroko starts to notice that something's up. Kuroko's like, what is up with him? And he's like, okay. He's like, enough. He's like, I'm going to shut you down. He's like, honest basketball isn't for me. He's like, I'm going to play street ball and do this. And it's like, okay. And Kagami's like, what the hell? And so he does all these crazy tricks, right? And the fact that Kagami knows what they are, he's like, I've seen this in America. So again, I think Kagami's going to hone in on it and work on that for the future. But for right now, it's just like, and yeah, shooting from behind the goal, you can do it. You can do it. It's doable. But it's not something that's easy. And it's not something I'd recommend doing unless you were Aomine. Like, I'm sure somebody in the comments will be like, oh, people do that all the time. I'm like, have you watched games? Like, I've been to so many basketball games in my life. You don't do that just on a willy-nilly. Half the time it's a fluke and it works out. And the other half of the time that you may be capable of it, but you just don't do it. It's something that's like a last minute, maybe last ditch effort. And here he's just doing it to show off. So, but it's Aomine. And oh my gosh. And Rico's like, what bullshit? I'm with her. What bullshit indeed. Like, how dare they? And Kuroko's like, well, But Kagame's like, Generation of Miracles is full of ridiculous guys. I feel like Kagame's like, okay, I figured him out. Because that's the thing. Kagami, I realize, as soon as he figures out there's a way, if there's a will, there's a way. And so he's like, okay, I know what I need to do. The problem is, I don't think he's going to be able to counter it in this game. But for the future, maybe. So, I can't believe it ended on that cliffhanger. But I really, really liked this set of episodes. I did want to talk about the end cards, right? There were 3 end cards. One was this very beautiful end card of Kuroko and Kagami and player 2 in the rain. I love it. It's absolutely wonderful. It's like a shipper's paradise there. I love that end card a lot. And speaking of shipper's paradise, the second end card is this beautiful one of Aomine and Momoi that I love. I don't know. There's something about that navy blue and pink combo. I'm shipping it. I'm shipping it hardcore, right? It could be that Kuroko, Aomine, and Momoi are in OT3 as well. It's just, you know what? Kuroko's just in a dozen OT3s. That's all he is. It's just what threesome can Kuroko just rotate between, right? And then we have Sakurai along with the captain and Wakamatsu. And I love it. Sakurai could be Riko's long lost brother, right? They look kind of similar. I almost thought it was Riko at first, but... So I don't know if I'm going to wait before watching episodes 18, 19, and 20. I don't know how long I'm going to wait. I'll probably talk to the Discord about it on Patreon, but I don't know how long I'm going to wait before I watch them. But if I don't wait and I watch them soon, then I definitely will have no choice. I'm going to be out of town the next 2 weekends when I usually record this series. So that's why I'm recording early in the first place. So I may go ahead and record the next 3 episodes, and then I will just come back to episodes 21, 22, and 22.5 with a lot of comments. So that's probably what's going to end up happening. I'm going to have a lot of comments coming back from after this next set, but oh my God. In the meantime, I really hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. I'm glad I got that OVA all straightened out. Glad I watched the right one. We're back on track. Everything's fine. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see your comments down below. Please, no spoilers. But y'all, this show gets better and better and tenser and tenser. And I look forward to it every week. So I don't get to binge series like this a lot. Usually I'm on a week-to-week schedule. So this is the first time I've gotten to binge something. And then I'll have to wait 2 weeks and suffer for it. So, but we'll talk about that next set of episodes. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Kuroko's basketball.